Well, it's finally that time again. Kojima, take me on your wild ride. Okay, so before we get into the analysis, now would be a good time just to introduce who the characters actually are. Kojima tweeted some character posters from the day the trailer was actually released, but I've ripped it straight from the video. So here we have Sam, played by Norman Reedus, Cliff, played by Mads Mikkelsen, Fragile, played by Leah Seydoux, Mama, played by Margaret Qualley, Deadman, played by Guillermo del Toro, Hartman, played by Nicholas Winding Refn, Die Hardman, played by Tommy Earl Jenkins, Higgs, played by Troy Baker, and Amelie, played by Lindsay Wagner. Also, there's a few terms we've learned since the release of the trailer. The first is the term BB, meaning Bridge Baby. The second term is BT, meaning Beached Thing. Now, BB is pretty much self-explanatory. A baby created by the Bridges group, who we mostly know as the typical good guys. BT, however, refers to the spectral-like entities you can see floating around in the sky, which drag people into the underworld. Also, the official description for Death Stranding was launched on the PlayStation website. The official blurb states, "Arm yourself and take aim at the variety of objectives in your mission to reunite a broken nation, while balancing under the weight of your cargo as you travel. Protect your supplies from wild bandits, and stay safe from the terrifying beached things, or face failing those who depend on you." So, it seems like BTs aren't going to be the only enemies in the game, and we do see some more enemies in this release date trailer. We also have some military groups going against us and wild bandits. We don't know too much about that, but we'll have to wait and see. It then goes on to say, "Death is not the end. There is no traditional game over state in Death Stranding. Lose your life during combat and you'll find yourself in an upside down realm, searching for a way back to the living. Choose your combat methods carefully, as killing your foe is almost never the solution, and every death carries a consequence." It's interesting they call it the upside down realm. There are references to a character called Hades too, though it's not clear if they mean it in a metaphorical sense. It's also pretty interesting we have to search for a way back to the living. Is it a certain object we're searching for? Maybe one of the baby dolls we've seen? And every death carrying a consequence. Maybe there'll be some similar mechanics to the Sorrows boss fight in Metal Gear Solid 3, where the more enemies you kill in the overworld will result directly in there being more enemies in the upside down realm. We'll have to wait and see for something more concrete. Assist other players. Help other travelers without ever crossing paths via asynchronous online gameplay. Send supplies, share safe houses, and walk in the footsteps of fellow couriers to reunite civilization. So there's no direct multiplayer in this game. It's thoroughly single player, according to the box and the description here. But it's clear there will be a way to help other players out by sending each other items, sharing safe houses, and maybe even guiding others to the correct path. Also, the bad guys with the gold masks are called Homo Demons. Yes, Homo Demons. It's actually spelled demons, D-E-M-E-N-S. Apparently this might mean mad men, but I've also seen on some Japanese forums for this video game that it's a completely made up term. I think that covers most of the new information released. Let's get into the analysis of the trailer. So here we can see the opening scene, which is something we've seen before. It's the baby again, but this time we zoom into the baby's mouth. Does this mean we're the baby? Also, constantly through the trailer, each transition we see is actually the baby blinking. There's a scene a bit later on where it seems like we're seeing things from a World War I era through the baby's eyes. For those of you that don't know, spoilers by the way, in Metal Gear Solid 5, the final twist was making us the Big Boss clone who goes on to discover Outer Haven. Maybe Kojima's trying to do the same thing here?
Don't worry. It's okay. I'll always be with you.
In this next scene, Cliff calls the baby BB, Bridge Baby. He then shows his obvious care for the baby itself, almost seemingly like a parental figure. The blood on his cheek also shows us he's recently been in some sort of altercation in order to get to where he is now. Did he fight through this area to get specifically to this baby? He also sings a completely original lullaby. I can't find any source with those lyrics. That being said, the lyrics are actually pretty ominous, representing the overall theme of coming to the end of this previous era. Here we have a transition into this photo scene. An elderly hand, possibly afflicted with timefall, seems to be putting down this picture of Sam Porter Bridges and what seems to be Bridget, who is assumed to be the leader of the Bridges group. There's also another woman here who seems to be pregnant, but her face in the photo is worn down. There's a good chance this was Sam's wife. Where is she now? Did she give birth to a Bridge baby? Now, before anybody mentions it, yeah, there are some pretty obvious ties back to PT. But it's important to remember, for copyright reasons, Kojima cannot make any direct references to that demo. There is a good chance Sam's backstory in this game is still inspired from what was supposed to be Silent Hills. But there's zero chance we will ever get direct confirmation from Kojima himself. A motorbike scene. Sam is carrying the same package for most of his time in this trailer, which is actually on the back of his motorbike here. Looking on the side of the bike, we can see it's called Endurance. There are various markings which are most likely just design based. Does 372 refer directly to the production of this bike? Maybe there's multiple bikes you can ride. We can also see wildlife in the background here, which tells us maybe there's more life in this world than we originally thought. And this game is actually much more survival based than we've seen so far.
America's finished.
This is Sam outright saying there's no more United States of America. Instead, it seems to be called the United Cities.
Sam, if we don't all come together again, humanity will not survive.
Next is a scene of a possible void out. Here we have a pretty good idea what he's running from. Was it the Homo demons who actually engineered this void out? Did they cause this explosion? We can see the wildlife here is actually still at the mercy of timefall, which is the rain that causes all living creatures to age significantly and quickly. There's also some potential foreshadowing here. We see Bridget, an old woman with blue-green eyes, and in the next scene is Sam with his eyes covered. Is this a very subtle hint from Kojima, possibly hinting our protagonist Sam has a different long-term vision to what she does? Does Sam end up being the bad guy? Not wanting to unite humanity?
Bridget, you're the president of jack shit.
Here we can see the BTs can actually be outrun as he rides away on his bike. Our first look at the Bridges facility, which seems to be underground. Sam is getting ready for what looks like his next mission. We can see the tags around his neck that carry data, him powering on the handcuff, and either a clip of him leaving or entering the base. Either way, the bike is being left in that elevator. So here's our first live gameplay shot of the trailer. We can see multiple strands to the sky in the distance. Are these all void outs? The homo demons must be pretty busy. Or Sam must have died quite a few times. Here's our first look at Sam with sunglasses. Customization is confirmed, by the way. The collector's edition has gold accessories you can equip. It's not immediately clear if this actually has gameplay implications, as gold doesn't rust. Maybe the parts last longer, or maybe it's a purely aesthetic choice. Here, his data necklace is floating in his hands. Is it responding to something? Or maybe there's a shift in gravity, possibly having an attack happen. Or maybe this is a scene from Sam actually being on the moon. We can see the Dreamcatcher is around his neck, which hasn't been explained much. What a beautiful snowy landscape. Does this confirm dynamic weather, or is this maybe a scripted event? Sam's still carrying around a baby, and what looks to be an upside down rainbow can be seen in the background. It's worth noting, a full circle rainbow can actually be formed in the atmosphere when sunlight reflects off rain falling in the sky. This might be a sign he's actually travelling away from timefall rain here. Reconnecting a fractured society. Something we don't know, and probably won't know until the game is released, is how society was fractured and why exactly these independents want to keep it fractured. Here's one of our first looks at the HUD in this game. A radial wheel options menu. Starting from the upper left side and going counterclockwise, one is the climbing anchor, which he actually uses. One is a ladder, a gun, and what seems to be a grappling hook, and then the option to close the menu. Or maybe this is actually a placeholder for another item you'll find later in the game. And finally, there's one urinating. Maybe this is the first look at the survival aspect of the game.
It's all to safeguard the continued independence of Edgenut City. They want the UCA to leave him be.
Who are these assholes again?
Homo Demons. Militant separatist group.
I've heard of them. Bunch of terrorists who go around towns killing people and leaving craters.
Right.
Here the trailer explains our golden masked enemies, the Homo Demons. These are extremists that can use the power of this Death Stranding event to create atmospheric changes and use supernatural powers. Does Higgs create timefall rain by just pointing at the sky here? It does look like he shoots something out of his hand. These are undeniably the bad guys, engineering void outs, killing people, but the most peculiar part of this whole thing is their golden mask. As gold doesn't rust, maybe they wear gold on their face to show their objective to everybody. Do they want to live forever?
Nothing's off limits for them. Not even engineering void outs. There are extremists like the demons everywhere.
This is a pretty good character building moment because here we see Higgs look fragile. I think this shows us pretty clearly this guy's supposed to be hated. He's supposed to be creepy. Maybe it's a setup for a redemption arc a bit later on. We'll have to wait and see.
Plotting in the shadows.
Those who resist the future. This is most likely a reference to the Homo Demons. Maybe they literally don't want the future to happen. Here's a gameplay mechanic. Sam is running and his bag gets scanned by what seems to be an area scanned by the enemy. A military group who are possibly named the Mules, according to the Japanese translations of their trailer, arrive to try and kill Sam. This is probably a look at the typical enemies we'll see in the overworld, and looking a bit closer, we can see the word ceramic on the boxes they're carrying. Is this their company name? Or maybe the material that they're carrying? They also have the arm that the bridge babies use to sense things. Fighting looks amazing. Fun fact, they actually skip some frames of animation for each attack on purpose to give a stronger impact feeling. They use a motion blur here for added effect too. He knocks one out and takes his bag, giving him a non-lethal weapon to use. The soldiers see it start to rain, and they run. It looks like everybody's afraid of BTs.
Good thing it was raining. Even they know better than to mess with BTs.
I can't spot BTs. Just sense them.
Sam can't spot BTs, only sense them. Maybe it's something about the dooms factor they spoke about in a previous trailer? The bridge baby lets Sam see the beach things.
That's why we came prepared.
A bridge baby, huh?
Makes me feel like shit every time.
Well, you are plugging into the other side. Freaks me out too.
Those who stay connected to the past. I think it's almost safe to say the BTs are from the past and brought into the present, and the Homo demons are fighting to make sure the future doesn't happen. Also, the BTs are shaped pretty human, and not all of them have tails or umbilical cords. Here, Sam gets taken by the creatures the BT summons. We can see his mechanical arm flashing multiple colours too. He's dragged across the floor in first person, and here we can see a whale-looking creature go into the black substance. Now, I've got some bonus footage for you guys. Not many of you will know, but there's actually two versions of this trailer out. In the Japanese version, there's actually a few extra scenes which reveal a lot of information. So here we see the same area, but this creature made out of the black substance is changing shape. It starts as a squid, and then into a dolphin or a shark type creature, and then back into a squid. Sam starts shooting the creature. Are there possible boss fights if you get taken in certain areas? And there's also an explosion from Sam. Is this maybe a potential way of saving himself? Those bound to Hades. Is this metaphorical? Or is Hades a real character? This is the point of view I mentioned earlier. in the past timeline from the baby perspective. We can see a tank materialize here out of thin air. Those who cannot break the connection. Here we see Cliff holding onto soldiers by their cords. It seems to be references to the World War I soldiers that are bound to him. Can Cliff travel between the real world and the underworld? In any case, the dog tags on his neck show us that he's a military soldier himself. Here's Sam with the tank, carrying no package. We see some sneaking and shooting mechanics here. Sam shoots a soldier's head off, presumably the same one that Cliff sent. Immediately after this, we see Cliff in the center of the web. This is eerily similar to the Bridges logo. Was he responsible for the event which occurred in Washington? Does this whole story revolve around him? We can see multiple baby dolls. Is this symbolism, showing him tied up in his own web, prisoner to his own previous decisions? Is this another extinction event or just bad weather? The orange marker on the arm shows us there's actually an enemy nearby. Here's our first look at Hartman. He must be the tech expert in the team. He might even be the creator of the handcuffs. Sam takes off his necklace here, showing it does actually have some purpose. Then he's immediately falling into the abyss with no data necklace. Just the dream catcher around his neck. Here we see Deadman, Die Hardman, and Sam look at the body Sam may have been delivering in a previous trailer. Or maybe he's yet to deliver this body. This could actually be Mama after her accident. We can see here Mama doing some sort of experiment with the BTs. She'll come back after a couple more scenes. Amelie and Sam seem to be love interests here. There's an obvious bond here that goes beyond physical. It seems to almost be supernatural in some ways, as if Sam's seeing apparitions of her. The body we saw earlier is being cremated here. And Mama's back. Here it looks like she either gives or gets given a baby from a beached thing. The very next scene is her stuck under rocks, possibly dying, while the baby is floating or being taken. She's crying here, probably in pain after being crushed by the rocks, but it could also be a chiral allergy. Sam's necklace accessing a control panel with formulae on one side. There seems to be 6 formulae for the 6 tags. I have no idea what any of these mean. If you guys have any clue, feel free to leave a comment explaining it. We might do a part 2. Here we see Sam playing with a bridge baby. It shows 99% on one side, fluctuating between 92 and 100%, and the words Bridge Baby Recovery System in the top left corner of the screen. Are the bridge babies being charged up for use? There's a lot of unethical things going on here. Mama's back here receiving the baby. This might be our first look at how exactly bridge babies are born. Her arm is blue, indicating there is actually no threat here. Amelie with a boat heading towards her. Is she leaving? There's a picture in her hand, possibly the same picture from the start of the trailer. People walking into water and Hartman being dragged away. Is he maybe witnessing the extinction event around him? Here's a cool shot of Sam who seems to be delivering someone. The Bridges logo is in clear view here, showing the point of origin being definitely Washington. Here we see some incredible character introductions. We can see Sam crying, Cliff smoking, Fragile crying, Mama crying, Dead Man not crying, Hartman crying. Die Hardman just looks like a bad guy. He is stated to be Sam's boss. Maybe he had some sort of accident himself. And here's the Higgs introduction. For those that don't know, there is actually a particle called the Higgs boson, known as the God particle. I think Higgs will probably play the biggest role in this game. Does he want to become a god? In place of his eyebrows, there are actually tattoos. It's hard to make out, but the last symbol is actually AU, which stands for aurum, which is the Latin word and the chemical term for gold. Here we see Amelie crying blood. This is a first. Normally it's either clear tears or crying the black substance. Is this an internal injury? We can see her in this next scene right here, transformed as a giant BT figure. She also gets kidnapped by Briggs, who also steals a necklace. There's actually a bit more to this scene as well in the Japanese trailer. We can see a few things here. Probably the main one being that he's converted Amelie into one of the Homo demons. Sam sees Amelie again in the mirror, without her necklace. Is this maybe a psychic connection? Or just Sam's imagination? Sam here is completely pale and mentions rebuilding America won't get rid of the BTs, while pointing a gun at his own head. Does Sam have to kill himself in order to progress?
Sam, we want you to go west and finish what Amelie started.
Rebuilding America isn't gonna get rid of the BTs. As long as they're still around, there's no escaping it.
But at least we'll have hope.
Higgs says he understands the truth of the Death Stranding event. He mentions forming connections when you can't shake hands, referring to the concept of chirality. Our overworld can't physically meet with the underworld.
You see, I've come to understand the truth of the Death Stranding. Oh, it's so hard to form connections when you can't shake hands. Fortunately, I've got a good connection to the other side.
Cliff has his cigarette somehow lit, putting it out so somebody else can light it, and then throws it across the old bed, setting everything around him on fire.
Covering the world in cable didn't bring an end to Warren's suffering. Don't act surprised when it all comes apart if you try to do it again.
Sam mentions covering the world in a cable. Is he talking about the modern day internet or something else? Why try to do it again? Was the act of putting the cable around the world what caused the extinction level event to happen in the first place?
Humans aren't made for living alone. They're supposed to come together, to help one another. And if we as a people can't do that...
This is one of the final scenes of the trailer. Amelie walks on water while Sam drowns. This might be the classic depiction of someone drowning in his own emotions. Amelie talks about coming together too. Does she have the same goal as Bridget, the leader of the Bridges group?
If we can't reconnect... That's what we need right now. Not to stand apart, but to come together.
I'll show you the real thing soon. I promise.
To wrap up the trailer, we see Cliff talking directly to the baby, except he doesn't look evil, and more like some sort of scientist. Was he present during the origin of the Death Stranding event? The book he reads to the baby looks like it's called Our Earth and the Moon. He tells the baby they can go wherever they want, even the moon. This is a direct reference to the first trailer Kojima ever showed us. Was the first trailer we ever saw actually Sam on the moon?
The whole wide world will be yours to explore. You'll be able to go wherever you want.
The final scene here is truly interesting. Was Cliff talking to the same baby we're led to believe? Cliff is indoors talking to the baby, but in this next scene, the baby seems to be outdoors, and it looks like somebody's actually holding the baby on the left side of the screen. Is this baby Sam? Is Sam's last name Bridges because he was a bridge baby himself? He wouldn't have been born with an actual mother and a last name to call his own.
Even the moon.
Well, that brings us to the end of the analysis. So thanks for checking this video out. This was actually my first ever video, and I'm looking to make more in a similar style. If you guys want to support me, check out my Patreon below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. If you have any feedback, feel free to leave it below. I want to build a community, and to do it, I need your help. I hope I see you again. See you next time.